Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor. And this continues to be the space for conscious, purpose driven entrepreneurs who are looking to remove the blocks that hold them back from their purpose so they can manifest abundance through it and assist in creating heaven on earth. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to have this conversation with you because it is really becoming more and more apparent how many light workers, star seeds, seekers, beautiful, divine, heart-centered beings, however you identify, so many of us are hidden. And it is shocking and surprising to see how consistent the patterns are that hold us back. And yet, at the same time, exciting because when we can see that there is such a consistent pattern, that means that there is a consistent solution. And so I wanted to kind of chat with you today about, are you a hidden seeker? Do you know that? Do you realize that this is happening? Are you sure, or are you questioning it? And if you're not sure, I'm going to run through some questions to kind of get you to check the boxes and see, am I a hidden seeker or not? So many of us, and I struggle with labels. I struggle with, I'm a star seed, or I'm a light worker, or I'm not this thing, or I am this thing. It has the potential to get wrapped up in ego state that I am this thing or I'm not this thing. I'm valuable, I'm not valuable. And at the end of the day, I think regardless of your label, if you're a heart-centered being who deeply desires to do something that matters, to make the world a better place, to be of service, to help end human suffering, I think I would lean towards the label heart-centered person, heart-centered, beautiful, divine being, even though we are all beautiful, divine beings. But I think the word that really encompasses the vast majority of us is seeker. That whether you consider yourself a light worker or a starseed, most commonly we are all seeking. And many of us don't quite realize what we're seeking. There's this yearning for something, and it feels like maybe I'll be able to quench that thirst through more ancient wisdom or more knowledge or more healing modalities or more healing for myself, more hermiting. And so the common theme amongst all of those labels is the isolation, is the hermiting, is the lack of shining our light. And that's where it causes pause for me, because we are here to shine our light. We are here to make the world a different place, a better place, to help create heaven on earth or the new earth. And too many of us are hidden. In fact, I would say a vast majority of the world's population's talents, skills, abilities are being suppressed by the conditioning and the programming of the world today, or you may even say trauma. So how do you know if you're a hidden seeker? I think it starts first with answering the question, do I identify as a light worker, a starseed, a heart-centered being, or a seeker? And if it's a yes there, then the next question is, are you hidden? Are you fully shining to the capacity that you know that you are capable of? Do you still have that yearning for something more? Do you have that knowing that I'm here to do something big in the world and I'm not quite doing it? If so, then listen to this list, and this will solidify for you whether or not you are a hidden seeker. So the first question is, do you binge YouTube videos? I know we're here on YouTube and I'm not here to shame you, but do you find yourself constantly just trying to consume more knowledge, more wisdom, more understanding, more healing modalities? And that would be fine if we spent equal amount of time on stepping into our purpose, sharing what we've learned, being of service, building our business. So if you find yourself binging on, right, the seeking of more and more and more, but not offering, not building your business, then you might be a hidden seeker, right? If you find yourself scrolling social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, and maybe even reposting other people's contents, maybe you share a lot of memes and you drop a lot of intelligent, wise sayings with the intent of helping other people, but at the end of those shares is someone else's name, you might be a hidden seeker. right? Maybe you have this desire to share your wisdom. Maybe you want to make a video or you want to write your own post, but you have that crippling fear of saying how you feel or coming out as someone spiritual or into the woo-woo things. By the way, the intelligent people know that the woo-woo things are the truth. But maybe you have that crippling fear over posting and sharing how you really fear or really how you feel because you fear that rejection or that criticism, or someone when you were young told you kids are to be seen and not heard, or maybe it's just too risky to be vulnerable. Then you might be a hidden seeker. Right? Maybe you get frustrated at the lack of progress that you make. You know the thing you need to do in your mind, but you cannot seem to get yourself to do it. Or maybe you do it for a little bit, but that you fall back into fatigue and overwhelm, and you tell yourself a story of, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, I'm too tired. And then you feel triggered or even paralyzed by your own rejection of yourself, the criticism of, why didn't I make that happen? What's wrong with me? And then it's even further amplified by watching other people do it. And you hear that voice saying, I could do it just as good. I'm just as wise. I'm just as capable, but you still can't quite seem to get yourself to do it. Maybe you've meditated day in and day out, asking for guidance and asking for answers around what's my purpose? What's my next step? What do I need to do? And you never really get past that healing phase. Oftentimes the guidance will even say, you have everything you need within you. You're like, I need more information, right? Maybe you've tried fixing it. Maybe you're aware that you're a hidden seeker. Maybe you're aware and frustrated that you can't quite pull yourself out of this rut, right? Maybe you look outside of yourself for gurus or psychics or psychic mediums or tarot card readings or someone outside of you who must have the answer. Someone outside of you must know what you should do. Maybe it's trained or ingrained into you to just do what everybody else tells you to do. I wouldn't blame you. That's what our school system does. That's what our military does. Many parents even do, right? And then, of course, there's this inner knowing that all of this is happening, even at a subconscious level, because most of this is subconscious, which means below our conscious awareness, which is why it's so hard to get unstuck, because it's programs in the subconscious brain. But there's still this knowing inside of you, something's not quite right. I'm not doing what I came here to do. I know I'm not able to do the thing I know I want to do. The self-sabotage gets in the way. So then you have to prioritize comfort-focused distractions like social media or even a glass of wine. And then, of course, you feel guilty about putting toxins in your body. And this is just perpetual cycle that you can't quite seem to get out of. And then maybe when you want to get out of it, you decide to invest in another course, another healing modality, another coach, another thing. There must be something, right? We keep searching for the next thing outside of us. So if all of that sounds true, you likely are a hidden seeker. And the reason I can make this list is because I've lived it. I know it oh so well. And the beautiful thing is when you start to understand psychology and biology and how it comes together with manifestation and spirituality, you can see that we're just working with the basic functions of the brain and the body when they have either conditioning, programming, or complex trauma. And the beautiful thing is, the good news is that there's a very easy and soft and simple solution. So I'll give you an example. Many of us are in this hidden seeker place. We get stuck there, and it's perpetual healing mode, perpetual hermit mode. We even adopt the belief that somehow I'm doing it better because I'm doing it alone, or maybe even closer to the trauma response of I can't trust anyone, or the world is not safe, or people are not safe. So we have glorified isolation. And yet at the same time, we expect ourselves to figure out our purpose and figure out our mission. And it's not possible. You cannot figure out your purpose or your mission in isolation, sitting alone on your couch, trying to figure it out from the level of the mind. As Einstein says, you cannot solve a problem from the level of mind of which it was created. So what you're experiencing, whether you call it conditioning or programming at trauma, it doesn't matter. The modalities used for trauma healing will heal this issue that you're struggling with. Now, I tend to use the words conditioning, programming, or trauma, because if I just say trauma, a lot of people will kind of turn off and say, I don't have trauma. But it doesn't really matter what you call it. It matters the response that your brain and body have had to what you have experienced. Now, trauma or conditioning or programming that did not meet your needs, if you didn't feel safe, seen, heard, cared for, or loved for an extended period of time, whether it was in childhood or in a toxic relationship or in the military, it doesn't matter. Your brain shifted and changed. Your limbic system became in charge because you needed to survive. And the vast majority of the world is dealing with this because we are dealing with conditioning and programming that puts us in survival mode. So whether or not you were formally traumatized or you just happen to grow up in this environment that we all live in, the answer is the same. And so your mission or your purpose right now is healing, but it is not healing alone, at home, hidden in isolation. And that's the biggest key here. Now, the challenge is we can't just bootstrap it. If you tell the hidden seeker, just get up and go out there and socialize, the brain is not going to support you in that. You have a survival brain. You have a traumatized brain. You have an engorged amygdala, which is the emotional center, right? We have a hyperactive flight or fight response because we're hypervigilant and on edge, always looking for the next problem. We live in the hustle and grind culture that has taught you you have to live that way. Resources are scarce and everyone is upset and struggling. And so they're lashing out at each other. And so it's reaffirming these beliefs that the world is not safe or that people are not safe. So it's not your fault. But now that you're here, you can finally find the answer, the solution. How do we break free from this prison? So know that your purpose is hidden below or underneath all of this conditioning and programming and trauma. And you're not going to be able to find it until you heal and shift and change the brain back to its original intended state and remove the conditioning, programming, and trauma from your body. That's done through somatic healing therapies. You can try something called brain spotting. You can try EMDR. I do something called trauma spotting, which is a combination of brain spotting and somatic healing therapy and energy healing. But you have to work with the body, whether it's me or someone else, doesn't matter. But know that talk therapy alone will not work. That's why people go to therapy for years on end and feel like, maybe it helped a little. Somatic healing therapy works in profound ways and will create large steps forward where you feel like you are a whole new person. So know that. I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. Your mission, if you are a hidden seeker, is to heal in conjunction with, in collaboration with, through connection and through somatic healing therapies. You cannot do it alone. And we are built for connection. There are functions in the brain that literally will starve to death if we don't have connection. So I know that can be scary. And that's why you start with someone that you trust who is trained in trauma healing therapies that utilize somatic healing therapy, especially. And I do offer free 30-minute sessions. If you want to check out the link below, you're more than welcome. I don't want to say forever, but I give from an abundant place, at least one free session a day. So I would love to offer you that. But just know you cannot do it alone. And you're not meant to be in isolation. Remember, we're dealing with the subconscious. We're dealing with something that is in your blind spot, which means you can't see that alone. I can't even see it alone. I am a professional at trauma healing, and I still see my therapist every week. And I know what we're going after, and I will do 50% of the work before I get there, but I still can't take it to completion without my therapist. So I want to give you just a quick example before I wrap up this video of kind of what you will work through either with me or, with a trained professional, either in somatic healing therapies or something like brain spotting or EMDR. I would suggest that you work with someone who's aware of energy, because I've seen brain spotting and EMDR be effective to a certain degree. But if there's not an awareness of the divine intelligence or energy, or your capacity for manifestation or infinite potential, or the psychology and the metaphysical aspects of the science of how an atom shifts and changes, things of that nature, you're not going to fully move through to the highest level. So this is not about tooting my own horn. I'm just really trying to give you the right guidance to find the right person. But essentially, as an example, what you're looking for is a pattern. So if you struggle with feelings of worthiness, feelings of not being enough, if you have that strong inner critic, as some people say, I like to say it's the trauma demon sitting on my shoulder. Somebody else will call it Suzanne. Somebody else will call it Liar Larry. If you struggle with that strong voice of what's wrong with you, why did you do that? You can't trust yourself, right? Constantly beating yourself up. You are going to struggle putting yourself out there, risking being seen, shining your light. It's going to cause you to shrink back and pull within. And I myself have had that literal feeling when I go into the trauma in my body, where it's this feeling of I just want to hunch over into a little ball. And other people have felt this as well. It is that shrinking back moment. And now maybe that is what you feel in this moment as the adult version of yourself, as you try to step out and shine your light and be seen and grow a business and become a servant and help end human suffering. But what we're looking for is, when did that first start? Right? For some people, it started with an overbearing, overly dominant parent, right? They were oppressed. There was this general message of, you can't trust yourself to make a decision. I need to tell you what to do. And so we're trained to keep asking, what should I do now? What should I do now? What should I do now? We're looking outside of ourselves, and that breaks down our trust with ourselves, with our intuition, and with our connection to source. We learn to not think for ourselves. This again can happen in school, where we're taught to toe the line, stay in line, be quiet, only speak when you've raised your hand, or children are not to be seen, only, or not to be heard, only seen, right? It can happen in the military, where it's like, you don't speak unless you're spoken to. But the general conditioning of the world says, look outside of you for permission and stop listening to yourself. It taught us to reject ourselves, right? And so we lose trust in ourselves, and it creates a feeling of, I must be broken. And it can also create a sense of internal chaos. It can cause us to live in our brain and not leverage the resources of the body. So that's just one quick example of the pattern that we're looking for and how that's showing up for you. And then you can look, when was the first time I realized I can't trust myself? When was the first time I received the message that I have to ask for permission to speak, or I have to ask for someone's advice on how I should behave or how I should act? And then from there, you want to go within the body and look at what's activated as I recall that memory. The first time I realized that I need to shrink back, play small, right? For me, as an example, it was in my teenage years when I was too bubbly. I was too optimistic. I was too naive. And people wanted me to know that. They wanted me to tone it down. And you can see it was a literal suggestion of, you're too bright, be quiet, shh, play small. And so, a few years ago, when I started out on this journey to start my business, actually 7 years ago is when I first started the process. It was a couple years ago when I finally found trauma healing and I could overcome all of those things that were holding me back. But I literally thought I was going to vomit when I wanted to make a video. People could not imagine the internal chaos that I felt. And it was only through the trauma healing work that I was able to overcome that and show up and shine bright unapologetically with full confidence. And I want that for you. The world needs you in your healed and whole state. I don't know if you've noticed, but the world is not in a pretty state right now. And whether you're a light worker or a starseed or just a seeker or a heart-centered person, the world needs you. So your mission, your purpose right now is to be a shining, bright light worker, to become a synchronized master and no longer remain a hidden seeker. The thing you are seeking is wholeness. The thing you are seeking is fulfillment. The thing you are seeking is the shining bright light that you are meant to be when you step into your talents and your gifts. And only that can come after you move through the conditioning, the programming, the trauma, the beliefs, the blocks, whatever you want to call it. Don't get hung up on the semantics. Just jump in to somatic trauma healing therapies. I promise you, it will change your life. Again, I offer free 30-minute sessions if you're interested. Do make sure to share this video if you know anybody that could benefit from it. There are so many beautiful, gorgeous beings who are hiding and tucked away, alone in isolation. And we need you to come out and shine brightly. I love you, my friends. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you on the next video. Namaste. I love you.